Hey guys, welcome back. As I said in my first video, I do offer a service for providing expert personalised feedback to your personal statement. This can be done by dropping me an email. All of the details have been posted below, so make sure you check it out. Hope you guys enjoy the video.
Hello guys and welcome back. In this session we're going to be covering your introduction and your conclusion. So hopefully you guys have sort of been following the videos as I've been going through and you've got most of the content for your personal statements there. Throughout the videos we've sort of stressed home how the introduction, it's a great place to emphasize why you want to study economics, and it's more of a sort of broad overview. But yeah, I'm going to give a bit more detail on how you should be tailoring your introduction and your conclusion. So the introduction, firstly, should be about 6 lines. The opening sentence itself should be short, sharp, insightful, and really catch the reader's attention. So there's obviously a lot of pressure on this first sentence. So it might be best if you want to wait to the end to write this sentence, when you've sort of carefully crafted the rest of your personal statement. A key tip is to really avoid using like overused words or cliche quotes. And you also want to sort of draw on your own personal experience, to sort of really give this personal element towards it, because at the end of the day, it is a personal statement. And yet we sort of discussed in the earlier lecture on writing your introduction, why economics, that it's great if your introduction can sort of give a high level overview of why you want to study economics. So you don't want to be getting into the nitty gritty, your further readings, your extracurricular activities. Save that for later. Keep a clear structure. You want to have your introduction separate. It wants to be a sort of high level overview of what you're going to be talking about in your personal statement, what your deep interests are. At this stage, if you haven't written an introduction, it'd be great if you could sort of pause this video and think about these tips I've given you, and then sort of progress to write your your introduction. And yet, as I said, it's only a short 6 sort of lines to sort of really sort of ease the admission student into the personal statement so that they can understand what to expect. Very often I see personal statements without an introduction, and it sort of looks like they've jumped straight into it. You're kind of a bit confused and a bit lost, and you're not really following the story or the narrative, and it's a bit of a car crash from there. So don't want to fall into that trap. You want to have a clear structure. You want your introduction, you want your conclusion, and this will sort of show that as one whole piece. So yeah, if you guys want to pause your video now, have a go at writing an introduction, that'd be great. And when you've sort of got this together, or some sort of draft, feel free to continue with the video. Okay, we've now sort of hopefully got your introduction ready. And this sort of video can be interpreted in 2 ways. If you are writing from the introduction and the conclusion completely separately, okay, but ideally you've sort of been following through the videos. You've got your introduction already. You've got your paragraph on sort of your academic sort of eagerness to study the subject. You've got to sort of integrate your skills. You've looked at your extracurricular activities. So you've got a lot there, and you've sort of made sure you've hopefully stayed on message, and established a clear narrative throughout. And it's all sort of there, and like it's all your ideas are great, they're all together. Hopefully it's one sort of piece, but it might be missing this final element now, which is the conclusion. So you want to sort of give this sort of feeling of completeness towards your personal statement, where you can sort of round it all up, summarize everything that's been in there, and sort of really sort of leave a lasting impression for the admissions tutor. So yeah, so it's really good that the conclusion gives you this opportunity to leave a good final impression, because ultimately admission tutors are going to sort of read countless personal statements, and you want to leave a good impression. A fundamental element of any conclusion is that you don't want any new information. It really is just a summary of what you've got, but writing in a different way. Yeah, just back to this last point. So you don't want to be saying, so writing all that, then start like your conclusion and say, oh, also, by the way, I was head boy, or also I read this paper by Smith and Stanley, or also I've done this. No, that's not the place for it. The place for that is in the main body. The conclusion is just to summarize everything up. And it really is a sort of area to make your statement stand out amongst the rest. I'll talk to you a bit more in detail about that. But you really want to sort of tie up the entire personal statement in 2 or 3 sentences. And yeah, as I said, this should be about 4 lines or so. But a core element is to, I know this is quite challenging, but to simply avoid repeating what you've said previously, like precisely like copying it. So you want to say it in a new way, but without adding any new information. So sort of tying it together, giving sort of holistic feel to it all. I think a big thing is that you really are sort of forming a final overall character to leave the tutor with. So they're going to sort of, however many personal statements they're going to read, they're sort of going to go back and look maybe, oh, okay, this is the conclusion. Oh yeah, they were talking about this in their personal statement. Because they're not going to go through and be like, oh, I'm going to read everything again because I know they said something good somewhere. They're like, okay, yeah, oh yeah, this kid was talking about microfinance. This guy was talking about macroeconomic policies or institutions. They're going to be looking and saying, okay, yeah, this conclusion summarizes it. I can easily find what personal statement I'm looking for. This point here is that it's good if you can have a sort of inspiring final sentence to make you stand out. So you don't want it to be just a boring sort of fizzled out end to your personal statement if you've done some brilliant work before. You want something which sort of, when you read, it's like, oh yeah, wow, this person really, really wants this. And he really, really deserves it. There is the potential to mention your career plans. But I think this is a sort of a grey area where you need to remember that it's a university application, not a job application. So you don't want to be saying too much about the future, like, oh, I want to do banking, I want to do this, I want to do that, because that's focusing too far in the future when you should be focusing on the now and getting into economics at university. Just going to go back to this first point. So obviously, admissions tutors sit there, they will sift through hundreds of personal statements, and it's difficult to stand out from the crowd. And one thing you can sort of give yourself an advantage is having a good opening and closing sentence. Because rightly or wrongly, you will likely be remembered from your first and last sentence. So they'll be like, if you start strong, they might be like, yeah, okay, yeah, it was all good, it was all good. They'll remember the first sentence. And when they finish reading it, they'll remember the last sentence. So it's really important that you smash these two. And this is just sort of goes together with the whole introduction and conclusion. If you can really smash them two, then it shows that you will leave a lasting impression on the admissions tutor. So now that I've given you a bit of advice, it'd be great if you guys can sort of stop the video now and have a go at sort of writing a conclusion, or at least some bullet points to think about which sort of tie together your whole personal statement. So it would be great if you could sort of read back through the paragraphs that you've got, see what sort of things you've been saying, what ideas you've been bringing up, what you've been discussing, and really just sort of summarize it in one conclusion. So that finishes off this video. In the next video, we're going to be looking at common pitfalls. So hope you guys tune in for that one, and I'll see you in a bit.